Tonight we need to talk about a storm that is quickly becoming one of the most aggressive winter weather setups many people have seen in years. The signal has been building, the models have been locking in, and now there's very little doubt about what's coming. A powerful coastal system is about to explode in strength, and its impacts will stretch from the deep south all the way into Atlantic Canada. Let's start with the phrase you're going to hear a lot over the next few days: bombogenesis. It sounds dramatic, and honestly, it should. This is not a buzzword. Bombogenesis is a technical term used when a low-pressure system rapidly intensifies, dropping at least 24 millibars in a single day. In simple terms, it means a storm is strengthening at an extreme pace. When that happens, the atmosphere releases massive amounts of energy, and that energy shows up as heavy snow, violent winds, and dangerous conditions on land and at sea. Now let's analyze what this specific setup implies. This storm is expected to develop off the southeastern coastline and then strengthen very quickly as it moves north. Once it begins that rapid intensification, it won't crawl. It will race. And that speed, combined with the pressure drop, is why the impacts will be so intense, but also sharply defined. Some places will get buried, while areas just a little farther inland or west may see far less. One of the most striking aspects of this system is the wind. Snow alone is disruptive, but when you add sustained winds and powerful gusts, you move into blizzard territory. In this case, the coastal Carolinas, particularly the Outer Banks, are facing conditions that meet and exceed that threshold. Heavy snow combined with wind gusts strong enough to significantly reduce visibility and create dangerous drifting will make travel essentially impossible at times. As the storm matures, the low-pressure center is projected to pass just offshore of New England. That track matters. If it were slightly farther west, major metropolitan corridors would be facing a historic event. Instead, the worst conditions stay closer to the coastline, with the most extreme impacts concentrated in eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, coastal New England, and eventually Atlantic Canada. To understand how this unfolds, we need to look at the structure of the storm. This is not a single, simple system. There are multiple pieces working together. One area of low pressure develops inland, while another rapidly deepens offshore. These systems interact, pulling moisture and cold air into different regions. Where those ingredients overlap most efficiently, snowfall rates increase dramatically. Where they don't, totals can drop off fast. That interaction also introduces something called a dry slot. A dry slot is a region within a storm where moisture temporarily decreases, reducing snowfall even though the storm is still nearby. This is important because it means some cities sitting between heavier snow bands may see lower totals than expected, not because the storm weakens, but because the moisture is being redirected elsewhere. Now let's talk about what people on the ground can expect. Across the interior southeast, this will be a snow-dominant event. There is no significant ice threat with this system. Temperatures are cold enough throughout the atmosphere to support snow from start to finish. That matters because snow combined with strong winds creates whiteout conditions, even if accumulation totals vary. In eastern North Carolina, conditions could become particularly dangerous. Winds strong enough to cause coastal flooding will coincide with heavy snowfall. Over the water, wind speeds could reach hurricane-force levels. And while inland areas won't see those extremes, gusts strong enough to down trees and power lines are likely. Even moderate snow becomes a major problem when visibility drops to near zero. Travel impacts are going to be severe in the hardest-hit areas. Roads that rarely see snow will become impassable quickly. Emergency services may struggle to respond during the height of the storm. And because the storm is moving quickly, conditions may deteriorate faster than people expect. What starts as light snow can become a blizzard within hours. Let's shift northward. As the system moves along the coast, snow spreads into parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. In many of these locations, totals may be lower, but impacts will still be noticeable. Snowfall combined with gusty winds and coastal flooding will create hazardous conditions, especially near the shoreline. Inland areas may see lighter snow, but even a few inches can disrupt transportation and daily life. In New England, the storm tightens again. Cape Cod stands out as a location where snowfall totals could reach well into the double digits. This is also an area where wind will be relentless. Sustained winds and powerful gusts will produce blizzard conditions and dangerous marine impacts. Snowfall rates could be intense, and drifting will make measuring totals difficult in real time. Beyond New England, the storm doesn't simply fade away. It continues to intensify as it moves toward Atlantic Canada. In places like Nova Scotia, snowfall totals could exceed a foot, accompanied by severe wind. This combination creates prolonged whiteout conditions and major disruptions. Now here's where things take a truly unusual turn. After the storm passes, the cold air behind it is exceptionally intense. This is not just a typical cold snap. Temperatures plunge far below what many areas are accustomed to, especially in the southeast. When cold air moves over relatively warm water, it can create a phenomenon similar to lake-effect snow. In this case, it's happening along the Gulf Coast. Yes, Gulf-effect snow is possible. As unbelievable as it sounds, flurries and even light accumulation could occur in parts of Florida. This happens when extremely cold air passes over the warmer Gulf waters, picking up moisture and depositing it as snow downwind. It's rare, but the setup supports it. Cold like this is dangerous. Wind chill values drop temperatures even further, making exposure hazardous. In areas unaccustomed to prolonged freezing conditions, infrastructure and vulnerable populations are at higher risk. A hard freeze can damage crops, burst pipes, and create life-threatening conditions for anyone without adequate shelter. And this cold isn't isolated to one region. It stretches across much of the central and eastern United States. In the Midwest and Great Lakes, temperatures plunge well below zero. In the Ohio Valley and Northeast, the cold settles in and lingers. This is not a quick hit followed by a warm rebound, especially for the East Coast. It's also important to acknowledge the broader context. Recent winter storms have already caused widespread damage and loss of life. Power outages remain an issue in some areas, and recovery efforts are still ongoing. When another powerful system arrives before full recovery is complete, it compounds the impact. Cold weather doesn't pause rebuilding efforts, it makes them harder. The takeaway here is preparation. Whether you are in the bullseye for heavy snow, dealing with dangerous wind, or facing extreme cold, the conditions ahead demand attention. Travel may become impossible. Power outages are possible. And the combination of snow, wind, and cold creates risks that go far beyond inconvenience. This storm may not strike every major city directly, but it will be remembered. For parts of the southeast and coastal New England, it could be one of the most significant winter events in years. And for areas farther south, the cold alone will be remarkable. The atmosphere is setting the stage, and now it's up to us to respond wisely. Stay informed, take warnings seriously, and understand that this is not just another winter storm. This is a powerful, rapidly intensifying system with impacts stretching across a continent. That's the full picture as it stands. Stay safe and stay prepared.